So in this video, we will see how we can create the list of employees in our dashboard. So we're going to create the list here in the dashboard. So I'm going to type in employee name, and this is where we are going to start writing our first formula to pull the list of employees from the employee sheet. So whatever the user has entered in the employee sheet should come over here to the dashboard automatically. So now what I'm going to do is just to tell us the logic first. The logic is show me, this is the first cell. So show me the first employee's name, which means show me the employee name in the first row of this table and this specific column employee name. So that's what we want, right? So in order to do that, we're going to use the index function. So we write formulas by typing equals first, and then we type in the function we want. So in this case, I'm going to use the index function. The index function will help us pull specific data from a list or a table or basically any data set. We're able to pick the specific row and column, and then it'll pull the data for us. So for example, I'm going to do open parenthesis. So this will show what are the different parameters the index function needs. And as we can see here, it needs an array. Array is nothing but, think of it as a list here. So I'm going to put L_EMP. This is the list of employee names that we have already created. So I'm going to use that and then put comma. Then it wants me to provide the row number. So the row number here will be, the row number is, since we are in the first cell, we're going to say 1 because I want the first employee's name. So then you can close the parenthesis. We don't need the column information because the L_EMP is a single column of list of employees. So we don't need to specify any column number, and the column number is optional for index function. So I'm going to close parenthesis and press enter. So now we have actually extracted data from the employee sheet to our dashboard sheet. So this is our first employee. So I need to do this for, let's say, 30 employees. I'm choosing 30 so that we can fit all of the data that we're going to show in the dashboard in one page when we print. So we're going to, see if we can come up with 30 employee names here. Now, if I want to do this for all the 30, one of the best things about Excel is that you can just copy and then it'll automatically pull data for us. So I'm going to try to do this for here for the first 4 cells, and you will see that it's pulling the same employee name. And that's because we actually put 1 in the function, and which is hard coded, so it'll always be 1. So it'll always be 1. What we want is actually when I go to the next row, it should become 2. The next row, it should become 3. So it pulls the third employee. Obviously, we can manually do it, but that's not the best way to do it. So we would like to write a formula here to say which automatically will pick the first or the second or the third, depending on which row it is. So I like to use this formula where row is another function. Row provides just the row number of whatever we are referencing. So I'm going to reference here cell B8. B8 is nothing but the current cell. That's where we are writing the formula right now. So current row minus row of this cell, because that's the header. So if I do this, row of B8 will give me 8, row of B7 will give me 7. So I'm going to highlight this, just the row function here. And then if you press F9, Excel will actually show you the value of running that function. So here it says 8. So I'm going to do Control Z to undo. So now row 8 minus 7 will be 1. And then when we go down in the next cell, it should automatically change to 9 and 10 and so on. Here, the important catch here is we need to lock this B7 because this is always going to be the header row. So this is called absolute reference. That means when we copy the formula later, it will still keep the B7, but B8, when we go down, will become B9, B10. That'll keep on incrementing because that's a relative reference. So when we put a dollar symbol in front of something, it locks it. It's called absolute. And then if we don't have a dollar symbol, that means it's called relative reference. And then when you copy the formulas will automatically update. So let's try that again here. So we have row 8 minus row B7. So I'm going to just copy this here. And now we see that the employee names are correctly pulling up. So employee 2, so let's see, B9 minus B7. So 9 is the row number here, 7 is here, 9 minus 7 is 2. That's the second employee name. And then when we go to the next one, it's 10 minus 7, 3. That's why it pulls the third employee name. So this is a technique that I use very often to extract the data from one place to another sheet, use the index, and then use this type of dynamic row numbers so that it'll automatically, when I do, for example, I want to go all the way to 37, that'll be our 30 employees. Wow, okay, so we have an error here. So this is happening because we don't have more than 4 employees in our employees list. Remember that we only have 4. So this is fine. We just need to make sure that this formula can handle errors. Errors in this case means I cannot find the 5th value. So Excel is saying I can't find it. So this is very simple to fix. Whenever you come across this, use the if error function. So we'll type if error in the front of the formula here, and then put a open parenthesis, and then at the end put a comma, and then do double quotes, which means nothing. So if this result is an error, then don't display anything. If this result is not an error, it will display the correct value. So that is the formula. So one way to think about if error function is, don't always do if error for everything without knowing why there is an error. So in this case, I know why there is an error because there is no 5th employee name in our employee sheet, and that's why it's happening. So it's not technically an error. It is just that we don't have the 5th employee yet. But sometimes the errors can be a valid meaning error that you need to fix. That's a problem. So please don't do if error by default. Always write the formula without the if error and then look at what is happening and then decide if that error should be wrapped in an if error function or not, depending on the reason for the error. In this case, I feel that the error is not really an error, so we can put an if error and then wrap it around with the nothing. So another quick technique here is that if you want to reapply the formula, now that we put if error function, reapply the formula to all these, you can just double click, at the bottom right corner, just double click. So this is one way you can do it. Another way is select all the cells. So I've now selected B8. I'm going to do Shift, Control, and down arrow. It will select all of this until the end of the formulas here. And now I will go in here and edit mode. Edit mode is nothing but I just click inside the formula bar and then I'm going to do Control Enter. Control Enter applies the formula to all the cells selected. So there are a few ways to do it depending on what we're trying to do, but these will help you apply the formulas quickly without having to manually do for each cell. So now we have created a list of employees, and I like to just highlight them in a slightly different color. This is helpful because then this tells us that we have formulas all the way to row 37. So whenever we build the other things, it'll clearly say that the formulas end in row 37. So slightly a different color for now. And so we have now completed extracting the employee list from the employee sheet all the way over here. So to test it, if I put employee 5 and then come over here, we will see employee 5 automatically come through. So as you enter more employees, they will automatically come through. And I'm going to just delete it for now. Let's keep only 4. That's it. So we have completed extracting the employee list.